All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Excited that you're all here. Let's get going. So today we're going to talk about guilty pleasures, and I've got some stuff for you today. You're going to leave here today with some really priceless insights. And yet, before we get into that, a couple of announcements that I want to make. Number one, next week, we have my good friend and coaching client, Jay Papazan, is going to be here on Wellness Wednesday with us. And, if you've noticed kind of the spirit of September, because Madison said that this is the season of yes. This is the time that we typically overcommit. We have holiday seasons coming up. We're planning for 2025, and we want everybody to be mindful of saying no to the things that don't serve us and saying yes to the things that do. And that's what today is all about, is about saying yes to what does serve us. And so next week, we're going to have the co-author of The One Thing. Jay does a lot of different things. He's the owner of Productive and an employee there at KWRI. So we're going to have Jay next week here live at 9 o'clock. So make sure that you join us for that. Also, for those of you who have never taken My Freed Life in person, and even if you have taken it, I would invite you to take it again for two reasons. Number one, the course changes. It gets better every time we teach it. And number two, so do you. You've probably heard the quote, no person steps in the river, no person steps in the river twice. Same person steps in a river twice, because the river changes and so does the person. So when we think about taking My Freed Life multiple times, the reason I want you to do that is because you're a different person now. And we are going to have this going on live next week, September 19th and 20th in Atlanta. Madison's going to drop the link right there. If any of you are in the area or would like to fly in and join us, I promise you it will be an experience that you will never forget. So next week, we have our last in-person My Freed Life session of 2024. So if you're around, we would love, love, love to see you there. So let's get into the lesson of the week. Today, we wanted to talk about guilty pleasures, but specifically, when I get into any type of idea, one of the things that I'm always going to do is to work off of a common definition. And I want you to know that according to the Merriam Dictionary, a guilty pleasure is something such as a film, a television program, a piece of music, or an activity that one enjoys despite understanding that it is not generally held in high regard or is seen as unusual or weird. So the thing about guilty pleasures today is what I'm talking about. And if you don't like that phrase, guilty pleasure, just take that out and put in the word hobby. Okay. So we're talking about either your guilty pleasures or your hobbies. But what we're really talking about is making time to do the things that you love to do, regardless of what others might think about it. It's making time for you to engage in the activities that may not be connected at all to your work. They may not be what we would consider to be productive, and yet they light you up. They make you happy. And to start this off, I just wanted to do a quick little exercise with you. So if you have a pen or something there in front of you, get ready to take notes. If you're typing, get ready to take notes. But I want you to fill in the blank to this question. Fill in the blank to this question. If I have all the free time in the world, I love to. If I have all the free time in the world, I love to. Now, answer that multiple times. If I have all the free time in the world, I love to go play disc golf. If I have all the free time in the world, I love reading fiction fantasy novels. If I have all the free time in the world, I love playing video games. Video games is a guilty pleasure for me. And for the longest time, as somebody who works in coaching big and amazing, people in the real estate space, I felt guilty about it. I felt shame, like that's a waste of time. But then I came to realize something. I don't care because I like it. And I don't let it get out of control. I don't allow it to take me out of the responsibilities that I have as a husband and a father and to my health and to my team. But I enjoy doing it. It's fun to me. So, if you're one of our brave souls, I'm going to ask you to participate here today. Put it into the chat box. What did you write down as the answer to if when I have all the free time or if I have all in the free time in the world, I love to? Play along with me here today and put that into the chat box. Now, when we think about engaging in these behaviors, when we think about engaging the behaviors of guilty pleasure or hobbies, what is the resource that we typically claim to lack? And the resource we typically claim to lack is time. I don't have the time to go play disc golf. I don't have the time to read that fiction novel. And I want to give you a couple of perspectives on this, a couple of things, and then program that I've created that many of you have seen before, but it's going to be worth noting again. But I want to just give you some insight on this. Number one, I have a good friend whose name is Craig Zuber. Craig and I are coaches. We came up in the MAPS coaching world together. We started at the same time, and over the course of the last 10 years have become really close friends. And there was this one day I had called him on a Friday, and he said something so wise. He said, you know, one of the reasons that people struggle so mightily with maintaining a healthy relationship with their businesses is that they don't know the difference between actually working and thinking about work. And your brain doesn't know the difference between actually working and thinking about work. And he said, so what happens, especially today, because we walk around with our work in our pocket, we are constantly thinking about work. So it feels like we're always working, even though we're not. And I thought, my God, what an insight that is. How true is that, that we're constantly working because we don't know the difference between actually working and thinking about work. One of the principles, the things that we really teach in my Freed Life or in this community, and it's the first step through the making the unconscious conscious, is something called metacognition. And you've heard me talk about this before, but metacognition is simply the awareness and understanding of our thought processes. And so the awareness of, am I actually working here? Or am I just thinking about work? Is this the environment that it's appropriate for me to think about work? Is there anything I'm actually going to be able to do about it? Am I physically present, but mentally hijacked? See, I'll never forget the first time that this really hit me in between the eyes was sitting there with my family at our kitchen table, and we love to play board games, card games. I mean, if you came to our house and went into our basement, you would see we have entire shelves dedicated to this. We love it. And we were sitting there playing apples to apples. If you don't know what that game is, it's a great game, super easy to learn. Kids love it. And we're like 15 minutes into it. Everybody's in that mode, right? Everybody's paying attention. We don't have one person that's complaining about wanting to do something else. We're all trying to beat each other. And boom, it hits me. There's a really important email that I was supposed to send, and I didn't send it. And I had told this person that they would have had it in their inbox like 2 to 3 hours earlier. Now, this isn't just one of those emails that I would just fire off in a few minutes. It was going to take me 15 to 20 minutes to like kind of craft it. You know what I mean? And see, in that moment, I am physically present, but I am mentally hijacked. I'm thinking about work. Now, I'm not going to stop the game and say to my kids, hey, dad's got to go send an email. Let me come back in 15 to 20 minutes. We'd lose the momentum, right? So I just made the decision that in this moment, there's nothing I can do about that. And that person having to wait another 30, 45 minutes isn't all that big of a deal. I'm going to sit here and enjoy this time because this is the real magic. In fact, I have a personal belief that when our family is completely engaged in an activity together, especially something that's fun, it just doesn't get any better than that. So I made that decision not to think about work using this tool of metacognition. So notice when you're claiming you don't have time to engage in your guilty pleasures or your hobbies, is it that I'm actually working or am I just thinking about it? Now, the second thing, and this is going to require you to follow along with me in an activity here. And I'm going to put the steps to this really quick in the chat box so that you all have this. And if you are an iPhone user, this is something you can do. If you're an Android user, God help you. I don't know how to help you because you clearly do not care about the happiness of other people. You don't care about ruining our group text messages. And I don't know how to do this on your phone. So if you're an Android user, maybe this will work for you, but it probably won't. And you probably don't care because you're clearly somebody who doesn't care. And so I'll put these steps into the chat box. But what I want you to do, because remember, as it relates to us engaging in our guilty pleasures and hobbies, the things that hold us back is I don't have the time. And I want to teach you today that that's probably bullshit. It's probably a lie you're telling yourself. So what I want you to do is open up your phone. Take out your phone right now. I want you to get this activity. I did this with the My Freed Life team right before you all came here because I wanted to make sure that it had an impact, and it absolutely did. And it had an impact on me. I did it this morning when I was preparing for this. So the first thing I want you to do is go to settings, right? That's that gray thing. It looks like a gear. Click on settings. Then I want you to scroll down and click on screen time. Screen time. Now you'll see some charts and stuff, but right underneath that, you should see something that says see all app and website activity. See all app and website activity. Click on that. Now, when you click on that, up at the top, it's going to give you the option to toggle between week and day. Click on week. So we want to know the week, not the day. And the week always starts on Sunday with screen time. And then what I want you to do is scroll down and you're going to see like messages, you're going to see Facebook, you're going to see Instagram, all the different ways that you use your phone. And I just want you to take a minute and add up the amount of time you are spending on anything that would be deemed as social media. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. So we're just looking at how much time are you spending on social media from Sunday until right now. So go do that. And while if you're somebody that's a brave soul, when you're done with this, I want you to pop that into the chat box. Put in what you found as the total amount of time. There we go, 2.5 hours, Laura Ravis. Thank you. So I understand that some of this was for work or some of your social media use is for work. I totally understand that. But when I went and did this between Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, since Sunday, I have spent 3 hours and 53 minutes on social media. 3 hours and 53 minutes. So then my enabler, that part of me in my head started going, well, some of that's for work though. You use social media for work. Okay, cool. So ask yourself an honest question. How much time per day do you honestly need on social media for you to be able to use it as a tool in your business? So when I asked myself that honestly, I came up with about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay, cool. So if we're going from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because Wednesday hasn't, I haven't spent a lot of time so far today. Just those 3 days, that's roughly an hour that I would say, yeah, I was using social media for work. So I deduct that hour from the 3 hours and 53 minutes, And I've still spent 2 hours and 53 minutes scrolling on social media. And that's roughly an hour a day, an hour every single day. I asked our team to do the same thing. One of them, 4.5 hours on social media. Another, 3 hours and 24 minutes. Another one, 5.5 hours. Now, again, some of this is obviously work, and we use this as a tool. I get it. But the vast majority of that is not for work, and we all know that. And so what I'm attempting to drive home here for you is that you have these hobbies, you have these guilty pleasures, these things that seem so insignificant, but they are significant. And you claim that you don't have the time for them, but you do. Your time is getting sucked into an algorithm from some company, probably out in California. And there's a quote that I absolutely love on this. It comes from Tristan Harris. If you don't know who he is and you are a parent, you need to know who this dude is. He's the one that co-produced the documentary, The Social Dilemma. I would encourage you to get to know this guy because he's all about humane technology. But what he said is the constant flow of social media notifications keeps our brain in a state of hyper-awareness, preventing the mental rest that is crucial for creativity and focus. See, number one, if I could just alter his quote, if I could go in and just add something to it, it would be in that last section right here, preventing the mental rest that is crucial for creativity, focus, and hobbies. Secondly, when you think about engaging in social media, for example, engaging in scrolling, have you ever noticed how you leave those scrolling sessions? And I mean the big ones. Maybe you're on there for 25, 30, 45 minutes. Do you ever notice how your mind feels? And if you've ever raised a kid, if you've ever had the pleasure of attempting to put a kid to bed who's quote unquote overtired, you ever had that experience, overtired, where they're so wired but they're also tired? That's exactly how I feel when I doom scroll. But you know what's interesting about that is I never feel that way after I read a good book. I could sit there with a novel and read for 30, 45, 60 minutes, and I never feel that way. And it's because of how these things ultimately hit your dopamine receptors. And these algorithms are designed to keep your attention. And as I was sharing this with the My Freed Life team this morning, it kind of hit me, right? There used to be a time when doctors would tell pregnant women that smoking was good for you. And today, when we look back at it and we think to ourselves, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. Everybody knows that there isn't one single good piece from smoking, not one thing that's good about smoking. And mark my words, we are going to look back at this time and we are going to look at social media as the new smoking. We're going to go, I can't believe we used to think this was good for us. And Laura Hyatt made sure that I needed to add this. It's social media and sitting. We sit way too much, and our bodies are not meant to sit the way that we do. But what I really want you to get from today is, number one, your hobbies, your guilty pleasures, they matter. And part of a freed life, part of designing and living a freed life, is having the courage to say that even though these things may feel unproductive or look unproductive or looked down upon by other people, I enjoy them and I am going to do them. Now, I'm not going to get caught up in the trap of believing that I don't have time, because you always have time for your priorities. You always have time for your priorities. What you're saying is that I'm not prioritizing these things. And one of the big reasons you're not prioritizing them is because so much of your time is getting sucked into the abyss of social media. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it for your business. What I'm saying is that you need to be disciplined with it so that your mind can create that space, that rest that it needs for creativity, focus, and these hobbies. Now, lastly, I mentioned that there's a program, a system that we designed, and this is one of the most popular things that I've ever created. You've probably heard me talk about it, but it's worth mentioning again, and it's called the W137. So if you write those things vertically, W137, the W stands for Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday is where you block off 90 to 120 minutes on Wednesdays to do something that recharges you. That might be reading a book. It might be going for a hike. It could be getting your nails done, massage, whatever it is for you. The one day off every single week. Think of it like your personal Sabbath. It's a day that you're going to unplug from all work. Ideally, this would be on the weekend because half the world typically quits work looking for you on the weekend. But one day that you're going to physically and digitally disconnect. I would love for you to think of it like it's a digital Sabbath as well, that you're not connected to your phone or social media or any of those things. The 3-day weekend every single month. Ideally, you would get out of town, at least get out of your space, because the problem with so many of you is that even if you're not at work, you turn all that energy and work on your house. And those aren't typically things like doing dishes and laundry and all that aren't typically the things that rejuvenate us. And I understand that it needs to get done. My advice to those people who always say, well, somebody still has to do it. Well, develop a skill that you can pay somebody else to do it. Just get really freaking good at something, and then you don't have to do that shit anymore. Because honestly, if somebody said to me, hey, you can coach for 2 hours or you can do laundry and mow the yard, I'll coach. And guess what? In 2 hours of coaching, I can pay for laundry and mowing for an entire year. So develop a skill that sets you free and quit pointing the finger and complaining about it. Sorry to get on my high horse here, but stop bitching. And then lastly, 1 7-day vacation every 3 to 4 months. 1 7-day vacation every 3 to 4 months. Ideally, this is a time you get out of your space, get out of your routine. And what this does, I mean, there's so many things, but one in particular is that it gives you something to look forward to. You know a break is coming. So that's the W137. And I trust that you've taken a lot out of today. I trust that you're going to take this and engineer it into your world. And my intention, as I mentioned, is 1, your hobbies, your guilty pleasures, they matter. Make space for them. 2, you can make space by using metacognition, understanding the difference between thinking about work and actually working. You can also make space by limiting your social media, your phone usage, and implement the W137. Even if you just implemented 1 of the 4 parts, that would be better than what you're doing now, right? So you don't have to necessarily get the whole thing, just get part of it. But the thing I really want you to take away, and this is a quote that I've absolutely come to love, and it's one that I have to share because it's so long. I can't ever recite it just right, but here's what it is. The masters in the art of living make little distinction between their work and their play, their labor and their leisure, their minds and their bodies, their information and their recreation, their loves and their religions. They hardly know which is which. They simply pursue their visions of excellence at whatever they do, leaving others to decide whether they are working or playing. To them, they're always doing both. So, my Free Life community, thank you for being here. I trust that you're going to implement this, or at least a small part of it. Make certain that you join us next week so that you can hear the insight of Jay Papazan. And If you're in or around or want to join us in the Atlanta area, we'll be there the 19th and 20th for My Freed Life, which is the last My Freed Life in person this year. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.